Do you want to introduce or
yeah,
no?
Introduce. Today, thank you everybody for joining us. Today we have Dr. Aileen Blitz, who's the psychologist on the Craniofacial team at the Langone, and we are thrilled to have her here today to share with us about self-care during this time, which I think is something that I think we all need, whether we are a parent or not. So thank you, Aileen, for joining us.
Of course.
And sharing your wisdom.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So thanks for joining us tonight. And I'm going to present some information mostly about self-care during this period of time. And then I'm going to get into a couple of specific issues. If there's anything that you want to ask questions about or comment on, we might wait until the end, but if it feels like you can't wait or it's just something you want to talk about, just like maybe go like that, and so Dina can unmute you and you can ask, or you can Dina, have them write it in the chat, right? A question.
I think chat will be the easiest thing.
Chat room. Okay, so if you have a question, type it under the chat, and then we can answer it. And let Dina know if it's something that you want to ask like right now, or if you can wait until the end. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to give a little overview, and then I'll go into more detail. And we had developed this webinar for everyone, just to help you during this time when it's been very difficult for people being at home and having ongoing concerns and having to cope with losses and various stressors that everyone is facing right now. Okay, so one of the things that I think we've all been dealing with is, for many of us, is being at home, and whether we're working from home, whether we've lost our jobs, whether we are on unemployment, everyone is in a different situation. But I think one of the main things that I've been talking to my patients about is trying to help prioritize and looking at your personal responsibilities and your work responsibilities, and trying to decide what is most important right now and what things can wait. And so that's something that we can talk more about. Another important thing that I think everyone probably is doing at this point is trying to stick to a routine. Keeping a routine gives some sense of normalcy in a very abnormal situation, and gives a sense of a familiarity of the day-to-day life, which can be helpful. Sometimes if you're working from home, which some of you are, and I know some of you are going into work, like Lenica, but creating a separate workspace so that if you're working from home, it can be hard to separate work and things that you're doing at home. So if you can make it feel like there's a place where you work, maybe it's in your kitchen or in your bedroom or in an office, if you have, that space, trying to really separate the boundaries between work and home, and trying to create a space so that you only do your work in one part of your home. Okay. The other thing that I'm sure a lot of people have been feeling is just the need to maybe want to get outside and exercise or take a walk or do something that feels safe outside. So if you can take a walk where there's not a lot of people around, that might be something that is safe, and we can talk about that more. If you live in a place where you have, a lot of people around you all the time, you may want to think about that. You may want to do a walk really early in the morning or at a time where it's less crowded outside. The other thing that I think we all know about and have been trying to do, and this webinar is another part of that, is stay connected to family, to friends, to colleagues, by Zoom or FaceTime. In a strange way, this social distancing can bring people together. Like sometimes people will talk about connecting to an old friend or making, calls to people from high school that they haven't talked to in years, or, reaching out to a colleague that they don't normally talk to, day to day, but just checking in to see how are you doing. So in some ways, it really can bring people together. And in other ways, of course, people are feeling very disconnected. The other thing that most of us, I think, have been at least started off doing was really focusing a lot on the news, listening to the news, trying to figure out what's going on, what should we do, what should we not do, all those questions. Trying to have some sense of a guideline of how to deal during this time. So I think we've all probably spent a lot of time listening, watching the news, being on social media, and we've probably realized that it's important to also limit the amount of time we spend because it can be very stressful, and it can start to feel, I think, hard to hear the same thing over and over, or to get, news that you start to get upset about because it gets politicized. So I think we all have to be conscious of how much we're, listening to the news or going on social media. During this period, I think this is something I'll get into a little bit more, but just trying to find some ways to cope with being at home, for this much time. Some people are doing some mindfulness, some meditation, some relaxation techniques, because I'm sure everyone is anxious, about what's going to happen. People are sick, people that are sick. You might have been sick. You might be getting sick. You might be just getting over being sick. Some of you might be dealing with patients who are sick every day at your work. So there's a tremendous amount of anxiety and stress. And, how do people use coping skills to just be able to calm down? And so some of those things I'll talk a little bit more about. There are some good phone apps, like one is called Calm, C-A-L-M. Another is called Headspace. Another is called Insight Timer. And if you want any of these, I can email you, or we can email you these resources, okay? The other thing, and I know this is something that everybody knows, but just trying to be gentle with yourself during this time when everyone's so stressed out. We're not all thinking clearly, we're making mistakes, we're not sleeping so well, we're, all kinds of things are turned upside down, our lives, our schedules, our eating, our sleeping. So to just try to, if you can, realize that, this is not a time that is something that is normal to us. It's something completely foreign to us, unknown to us, and we're just starting to adjust to it and learn how to adapt to it. So trying to be kind and take care of yourself. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about resilience and what can help during this period of time when people are, under a lot of stress. And I want you to just imagine yourself going on a hike. If you were hiking up a beautiful mountain with birds and wildlife all around you, and just imagine in your mind that this is not an easy hike. There are many very steep steps with lots of rocks and waterways. How would you navigate and handle any unexpected problems that may arise on your climb? Do you have a good map that you can rely on? You might rely on expert hikers to help you out or to advise you on how to cross safely. Perhaps you would take some climbing equipment, pack special hiking shoes, have water bottles, a first aid kit in your knapsack. So as we know, life may not come with a perfect map. There will always be twists and turns and difficult passages like losses, illness, accidents that we all have been aware of. Each change affects people differently and brings with it unique feelings, emotions, and responses. There's often uncertainty and a wish to know how to proceed. During this life-changing and stressful time, we may need to rely on our resilience to get us through. It may be all that we have in certain moments, our own self-reliance or resilience. With all of you who are going through so many changes, usually people can adapt pretty well over a period of time. Psychologists define resilience as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. So that's a basic definition of what is resilience. What resilience is not. So being resilient does not mean that you won't experience distress or difficulty. People who have gone through major traumas in their lives and who might be going through that right now, the way that they develop resilience is usually going through these kinds of traumas and finding a way to cope with it, learning how to cope with severe situations and finding a way to sort of be able to bounce back or to be able to continue to function even when you really don't feel like you can, or you really feel like you're exhausted, you're stressed out, you're done, you can't do this anymore, which I'm sure all of you are feeling during this period of time. Just knowing that as much as you feel that way, that you keep going, which is not easy. Okay. Increasing your resilience is a lot like building up your stamina or building muscles. It really takes effort and practice. And some of the things that I just mentioned, like fostering connections, finding a purpose, looking at some creative outlets that you might have not done before because you don't have time for it, trying to embrace healthy and positive thoughts. And if you need to, seeking help, whether it's through webinars or through therapy or through a Facebook group or through a support group, really trying to, in some ways increase your network of people so that you don't feel alone during this time. So I'm going to briefly talk about some areas that I think might help increase your level of resilience, and think of those things that you might want to focus on or make a plan of action for. So the first one I'm going to talk about is physical in the physical realm. So some of the things that we can do to help take care of ourselves is taking care of our body, exercising regularly, trying to get adequate sleep, avoid any mood-altering drugs, or avoid drinking a lot. If you drink, try not to overdo it. Try to avoid high-risk, dangerous behaviors right now during this time, okay? Another part of fitness is called interpersonal fitness. And what I mean by that is, in order to stay connected, to not be isolated or avoidant or detached, and to know that you're not alone. You might feel like you are alone, or you might feel like you are having trouble feeling like you can connect to people. So I would recommend trying to reconnect with social support, with friends, with colleagues, like I said. another way to feel better is to give back and help others in big ways and small ways, checking in with the neighbor, seeing if somebody that you know in your building has food, seeing if somebody that you know might be sick, letting people know that you're sick if you are by leaving a note under maybe a neighbor's door, making sure people in your building have your number or your email address. Another thing that can help is sharing your emotions, talking to someone about how you're feeling, what this time has been like for you, what's been going on for you, how are you dealing with it. Okay. Trying to improve your communication skills, because a lot of communication right now is online, over the internet, or through text or through phone calls, but not in person. So communication is a lot harder right now, you know, because we're not seeing each other face to face. Also being cooped up in the house with a partner or kids, your roommate, or you know, maybe a relative that's living with you. Many people are finding that, you know, there might be more fights, more breakdowns in communication, more irritability, you know, not, you know, losing your patience. So I think this is a time where people might be a little more short-tempered. You know, they might need some time to just have some privacy, you know, because you're all in the same place, and sometimes you're in that same place all day long, 24/7. If you're not going to work, or you're not getting out, or you're sheltering in place, it's not easy, you know. So I think we all probably have experienced some of this, you know, where we're just getting on each other's nerves. You know, we need some alone time. We need time to just take a shower, watch TV, eat a meal in quiet. I think it's important to try to nurture your relationships right now, and also kind of reach out to your community, you know, even if it is online. Some people find some of their cultural or ethnic traditions can be helpful, certain rituals that might help you. Also, maybe reaching out to a mentor if in your life you've had a mentor, to ask them how are they coping, how are they dealing, what would they recommend. Also for people who have pets, you know, like I know Yael has a little dog, and, you know, that can really help people, you know, just feeling more comforted. It can help you to manage your moods and your anxiety. Okay. Another kind of fitness is our emotional fitness, which I've kind of been talking about, and trying to cultivate positive emotions. I know right now we're all probably feeling a lot of range of feelings, like scared and uncertain and worried and anxious and irritable, and maybe some of us are feeling somewhat relaxed because we're home. So I think we're all feeling a range of emotions, and I think, you know, trying to cultivate more positive emotions at times so that we don't get very depressed. It can help to make a bucket list of our of activities that we want to do, whether they're now or when things change a little bit, in terms of being able to get out more. You know, a bucket list of things that we'd like to do, so that we have something to look forward to. Because we usually live our lives having things to look forward to, like going out or going to a movie or going to dinner or going on vacation, which none of us are doing right now. So it's a big change in our lives. Using positive humor can help. Expressing gratitude, even if it's something very simple, just letting people know that they mean a lot to you, that they've helped you, that you know they're there for you. Just letting people know that you care about them and you need them in your life. Just being able to express that can make you and the other person feel a lot better. Some ways to regulate more negative emotions, give yourself permission to feel sad, to cry, to grieve, to become angry, to feel disbelief, to feel like what's going on. Let yourself feel those things, because we all feel it. We all feel angry, we feel sad, we feel frustrated, we feel like no one's telling us sometimes what's the right thing to do. We feel like maybe we don't have guidance. So I think it's important to feel these things and to let people know that you're feeling that way, because everybody is feeling this. I think it's helpful to engage in constructive grieving if you've lost people to this virus, or people, animals, pets, see if there's some way to memorialize those people. I know right now there can't be funerals, there can't be any, way of mourning people in a organized way, but there might be a way to grieve constructively. Also being able to share your story, letting people know what you've done, what you've been doing to get by during these last few weeks or month. Another really helpful thing is to change your self-talk, like the way we talk to ourselves about what we're doing, how we're feeling, to try to maybe engage in self-talk that's a little bit more permissive, a little more kind to ourselves, a little bit more positive than negative. Some people have been writing journals or keeping a diary of or blogging about their experience with being quarantined, and that can help. Sometimes that really helps people to just write down what they're feeling, what they're going through. If you can't do that, I think it would be helpful to try to really let somebody know what you're going through, to really, have a place, a person that you can talk to who is able to handle hearing everything you're dealing with. I think another important thing during this time period is to try to be psychologically flexible, meaning trying to be more tolerant of other people, trying to appreciate other people's perspectives, even if they're not your own. Establishing achievable goals, like maybe your goal is to get out to the supermarket once every 2 weeks, or maybe you have a goal of cleaning your house and you do that once a week, like trying to come up with realistic goals of things you can actually do, and to not worry so much about the stuff you can't do, because most of us are feeling probably a lot more tired, a lot more drained, a lot less like emotional like energy and a lot less space or bandwidth. So I think it's important to realize that we're not going to get everything done the way we normally do. We're not going to get stuff accomplished like we usually do, because we are so much more fatigued and stressed out just because of the situation that we're in right now. So having a little bit lower expectations of ourselves and of other people, so that you don't feel badly if you don't get everything done. Thinking about people who might be less fortunate than us, that people who maybe are having more problems than us right now, or who are struggling more, it might help to, think about what they're going through and, what we can do to help them. I think during this period of time, it also can help to avoid certain traps in our thinking, like obsessive thinking. We might be thinking over and over and over, oh my God, what's going to happen? If the, country or the state opens up, what am I going to do? How am I going to be safe? What if my kid wants to go out? What if my kid is going out? All those worries and fears, to try not to get caught up in obsessing about these things, because that also is very, very draining, and it really doesn't help us to figure out good solutions. I think for all of us, one of the most important things is to have, you know, a good, safe, and regular routine, like if you can, a routine of getting up in the morning at a similar time, going to sleep at a similar time, eating, not missing your meals if you can, taking breaks, you know, trying as best as you can to keep some kind of routine going, you know, so that it doesn't feel so abnormal to you, can be helpful. Another thing that I think is important is to try to get good information. If you're going to watch the news or read about COVID-19, try to get as good of information as you can. Some of the information that's out there may not be good, might be about treatments that cost such and such money, or tests that you can order online that might be scams, or might be things that actually are not helpful. So I think it's important to try to make sure, you know, that you check out what information you're getting. The other thing that some people have been talking about is trouble with sleeping. You know, a lot of people are having trouble sleeping. A lot of people are having nightmares because you're more anxious, more scared. A lot of people are falling asleep and waking up in the middle of the night. Sleep is really important for our brains and for our emotional life, for our moods, to regulate our moods. Most people need 7 to 8 hours a night of sleep. I know we don't all get that, but most people need that. So if you're not getting that, you might want to try to get more sleep. Avoid eating a large meal about 2 hours before going to sleep, because it's very difficult to fall asleep when you're overly full. At the same time, you don't want to go to sleep hungry, because then you won't fall asleep. So having a little bit of a snack before you go to sleep can help. Avoid rigorous exercise before you go to sleep, because that will actually make you more awake and it will elevate your nervous system. So you really don't want to do a lot of strong exercise, maybe just a little bit of stretching, but not rigorous exercise. And if you can't fall asleep, it's okay to lie in bed and try to rest, to just rest. You know, maybe you won't sleep well one night, but that's okay. If you don't fall asleep within about 20 to 40 minutes of going to bed, you might want to get up, go into another room, and try to just read a book. That usually makes people sleepy. I don't recommend watching TV or getting on your phone, because that's going to actually make you feel more awake. Some people might have mindfulness apps or sleep apps that you can use when you go to sleep, so that might help you. Dealing with nightmares. So it's not unusual to have nightmares in general. We all have them. About as many as 25% of people have a nightmare once a month. So you might be having nightmares now because things are very stressful. And while they can be very upsetting and disruptive when you wake up, you know, you might feel really disturbed and very upset about it. You know, one of the things we know is that nothing really bad can happen. They're not going to hurt you. One thing that I recommend to people is trying to kind of change the ending of a nightmare, you know, trying to change how it ends in your mind so that it's not so scary or so upsetting for you, and developing a little bit of a sense of distance from the nightmare, where you just think about it like you're watching a movie or watching TV, like it's not so much a part of you, you know. So that might help you to be able to kind of get some distance from it and not be thinking about it or having it sort of linger with you all day long. Okay, I'm going to stop for a minute to just check in to see with Dina if there are questions or comments before I move on.
So right now, there are not any questions or comments.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to move on now to how a little bit of a different topic, which is how to help your children understand and cope with the coronavirus and how to manage your anxiety. Okay. So the COVID-19, I might read some of this. The COVID-19 virus pandemic has resulted in uncertain times for parents and children, leading to feelings of stress and anxiety about family members' health and safety, as well as changing work and school routines. It helps for parents to try as best as you can to stay calm and reassuring with your children. Children tend to take how their parents respond to these situations and respond to them or cope with them in similar ways. Make time to talk to your children if they are at an age where you can talk to them. Make time to talk to them on a weekly basis, if not every few days. Be open and honest with them without being too despairing of what's going on, because that might scare them and make them more anxious. Okay, so try to be open with them, but be careful to not be too upset in front of them. Stay informed about what's going on with the pandemic and share information with your child. And again, sharing information to the degree that they can understand it and to the degree that you feel it would benefit your child without scaring them. Practice self-care and teach your kids how to have better self-care. Okay, I see a bunch of new people coming on. When children and teens are stressed out, their behaviors tend to change. They start to show different behaviors. Don't be surprised if you see your kid having mood swings, more problems paying attention, trouble with concentration, getting more angry more quickly, okay, acting out, wanting to be alone, isolating, sleeping more because they're anxious and tired and stressed out, eating a lot more or not eating very much, again, because they might be stressed. So don't be surprised if your child is having behaviors that might be a little bit different than usual. Okay. They might say that they don't feel well. You know, they might say that they have a headache or stomach ache. I know that can be scary because you might think, are they sick? Do they have the virus? But sometimes kids will not be able to talk about what they feel or express what they feel, but they might have physical symptoms that are really sort of, in a way, their anxiety, like headaches, stomach aches, things like that. So see if you can get them to talk a little bit about what they're feeling, you know, and see if you can get them to express what's on their mind without pushing them. But sometimes they will have physical complaints because they're really nervous or they're confused or they just don't know how to tell you that they're scared or they don't know why they're scared, but they're young and they know something is very different, you know, like why are you home or why are you on the phone all day? So these are questions that kids might have. Okay. If you're very worried about your child and how they've been dealing with this global crisis, please contact a mental health provider in your area, contact your insurance, or speak to myself or Jen about this and we can help you. Okay. For parents of children who may have certain disabilities, it can be a unique challenge to help them to understand what's going on with the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, some children may not understand social distancing and why they have to be separate or apart from you or from other people in their lives. Some children may have certain special needs where it's not practical for them to maintain social distance. Certain services for your child, certain special therapies or clinical services may be now on video conferencing. So that can be very different and can be an adjustment for your child to get their therapies online. And that might be something that you may need to help them to adjust to. Another important thing to think about is that children who may have special needs, medical needs, may fall into the high risk categories of, you know, people who have respiratory issues, or if your child has asthma, if they have a trach, if they have breathing issues, they may be at higher risk for certain medical conditions. And they may be at higher risk if they were to get the virus. So that's something that you all know this, and to just be able to, if your child is not feeling well, you know, to be checking in with them, taking their temperature, those kinds of things. While children overall are less likely, they are less likely to contact COVID-19. Some children have contacted it. Some children are infected with it, but children are less likely to get it than adults. Okay. It's important to foster an atmosphere at home, as I said before, that's reassuring, where there's routines to show that things are okay, so that the children are already experiencing, you know, changes and things are different, so that they feel like, you know, things are not so different that they're scared. Okay. I don't know how many of you have older people in your lives that you're taking care of right now. If you do, can you just raise your hand? Anybody? None of you. Okay. Okay, so I'm not going to get into self-care for older adults because it looks like none of you have older people in your life that you are taking care of right now. Okay, another major issue I think that all of us are dealing with is the financial aspects of this crisis, and the fact that so many businesses have closed, shut down, people have lost jobs, and there's a tremendous impact on mental health because of the shutdown in our economy, and the fact that, you know, there's such skyrocketing unemployment. So that's something that I think we also need to talk a little bit about, if that's something that you're dealing with. There are some good mental health resources during this time period that we can email you. I'm not going to talk about them now, but those are things that if you're interested, you can let us know tonight and we'll email you that information. Okay, so I'm going to open it up now to everyone to talk to each other, ask questions. If you do have questions, Dina will screen your questions and she'll look at the chat on the bottom. So if you have questions, you can type in your questions.
Anybody have anything?
Maybe, Dina, maybe you want to unmute people.
Okay, here's the thing, guys. If I unmute people, then then I think you might be seen on the screen. And then let's try it. I can try unmuting people. See what happens. All right, so manage participants and mute all.
Guys. I had a hiccup. Okay, all right.
I think it's better. muted, but if anybody has any questions, hold on, I'm gonna unmute. Aileen.
Talk about or that they're dealing with, or just if you don't have questions, that's okay. Do you have anything that you want to share with the group of what's been going on for you, what you've been feeling, what it's been like? So I think it's important that we have kind of a small group here. It looks like, I don't know, I can't tell, but it looks like it's not a big group. So if there are things that you want to bring up,
Dina, it looks like we got two questions in the chat.
Yeah, we have a bunch of questions now.
Yep.
So let me,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
okay, so let me look at that now. And
maybe you could say what they are so we all know.
okay. So one mom wants to know, how do you suggest dealing with children who just don't understand and are forced to deal with behaviors every day?
Children who just don't understand what's going on.
And yeah, and I guess dealing with their behaviors and yeah.
Right.
Maybe.
Okay.
They're acting out. So they're acting out.
Yeah, they're acting out. Okay. So I think you can only explain to them as best you can, given their age and developmental level, what's going on, to let them know that things are okay, that there's nothing seriously wrong, because you don't want to scare them if they're very young, but to let them know that right now their routine of the day-to-day is going to be different and that you need their help in dealing with it. And kids are going to act out. They are going to, because they're not used to being home. They're not used to not seeing other friends and having more social activities and getting out their energy. You know, so they are going to act out. I mean, you can expect it. You know, they're going to show behaviors that are not, you know, at all times going to be the most adaptive or the easiest to deal with. I think the best thing to do is try as best you can to keep, you know, a normal and a routine, to try to ask them, you know, for their help in doing things, to try to keep them as engaged with creative things as possible, to give them some time to get some of their energy out, even if it's inside of your apartment, you know, where they do something that's a little bit physical, which can be really hard if you're in a small apartment. But I think that you can expect that they are going to have a harder time right now, and you're going to have to let certain things go. There's just no way that they're not going to act out.
And I'll chime in for a minute and just say that I think there's so many activities and things happening online now that people doing readings of children's books, like well-known people, and arts and crafts and concerts for children. There's just tons of stuff to be had out there to connect to, and even online classes for kids. So that might help as well, to see what's out there and do that. Another question I have from another mom is, she's a nurse who sometimes gets floated to the ICU or step-down unit. I cannot isolate myself from my 11-month-old with von der Waals syndrome. Is she more at risk? Is that safe? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think as a nurse, you know that, you know, there's certain risks. And I think that the important thing is that before you are with her, that, you know, a lot of nurses that I see in my practice are coming home, taking off everything they have on, showering, you know, if they can, and then, and only then, being with their child. Now, I don't know how realistic that is for you, but that is what most nurses that I work with are telling me that they're doing. I know all of you nurses out there are amazing. Thank you. We can't thank you enough for doing what you're doing. And I imagine it is incredibly scary for you. And like Lenica said, the hardest thing is when she comes home, you know, and I'm sure that's the same for all of you. You're terrified to, you know, harm your family. And I think that, you know, the best thing that you can do is to really, you know, in a sense, maintain all of the precautions with clothes and washing and all of that. But I know all of you are not going to stop going to work because that's just how nurses are. So I know you're going to keep working. And we owe so much to you for doing that, but it's very, very difficult.
Yes, we have another question from another parent. How can parents help their special needs children continue their important necessary services during this remote experience, as well as not fall behind academically?
Okay, that's a great question. I mean, all of the kids who have special therapies, who are getting special therapies from their schools, should be eligible for this online. All of the therapists that have been working with your children up until now should be doing video conferencing like this, whether it's on Zoom or Skype or there's so many different ones, but your child should be getting classroom time from their teachers online and special services. Jen, I don't know if you have anything to say on that matter.
Yeah, I mean, the feedback that I've heard from families is I think some providers are better than others with doing outreach and doing the direct services. So I would say, I mean, everyone here I know is such a strong advocate for your child. So I would just say, you know, keep advocating with those direct providers and the schools and just doing, you know, kind of staying on top of them to make sure that they are doing, you know, what they're supposed to be doing and you know, reflecting the care that your child's supposed to receive. That's, you know, on their IEP and what they, you know, need to succeed. And let us know too, you know, also if we can help be an extra advocate for you, if you think that if you're getting pushback from staff or from school staff or from providers, like let us know, because we're happy to help advocate for you guys too.
Thank you. We have another question. Can you share any specific calm down techniques when we begin to feel overwhelmed?
So I think it depends on, you know, what helps you to calm down. But I think the best way, if it's for you, if it's for an adult, is to go somewhere that's quiet, and if you can, and sit down or lie down and just gently start to focus on your breathing. Just start to focus on your breathing and start to tell yourself when you're breathing in, you're breathing in, and when you're breathing out, you're breathing out. And just start to quiet your mind by focusing on your in-breath and your out-breath. Okay, that is the quickest way to get your nervous system to settle down. And it gets your mind to stop chattering. It may only last for a few seconds, and then you might start chattering again in your mind. But the quickest way to get an adult to calm down is to sit somewhere quiet and just start focusing on their breathing, because that immediately settles down your central nervous system. And then if you're someone who can, you know, do it for a little bit longer, who can maybe use a meditation app, you just want to basically quiet your mind and your body at the same time. So sitting down, lying down, trying to go somewhere where maybe it's quiet, that may not be possible, Another thing that can help you to calm down quickly, if you have a pet, like a dog or a cat, just being able to touch them, pet them, being in physical contact with an animal often will settle your nervous system down and calm you down a little bit. And you can even match your breathing to your dog or cat's breathing. I know it sounds a little weird, but it will calm you down quickly.
So we have another question, but it's in Spanish and I don't know how to interpret it. It's in the
I can translate it.
Thank you.
Dina.
Thank you.
Am I going to be able to read it here? Oh yeah, it's from Alejandra.
Yeah.
Can you read
Yeah.
it? Or?
Yes. It says, how can I help my son with the stress and the pressure from the school to finish and submit on time all the activities? He is not that fast with the computer keyboard and all the programs and links that the teacher send are causing all this stress and anxiety.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So that's another big issue, is like some of the kids are not used to using the home computer or using links and things like that. So it's like a whole new thing to learn, and there might not be someone at home to help. I think two things. One is, do the best you can trying to help him use these links, and see if there might be someone at the school who could talk through them with you while you're there in front of the computer, so that maybe you can figure it out with your child. The other thing is that you may need to accept that your child is not going to get everything done. They're just not. It's just not a normal time. They may not get all their assignments done. I would let them know they're doing the best that they can right now, just like everyone else is. But if they can't get everything finished, I would tell the child, do not worry about it. Most kids are going to have to make stuff up when things get back to normal. But for right now, there's just no way that they're going to be able to get everything done the way they used to, especially if they're being asked to do certain things on the computer that they don't know how to do.
I don't believe there are any other questions at this time. If anybody has any last minute questions, you can type it in. Oh, okay. So somebody else replied.
It says that the teacher needs to understand that and be more flexible with the expectations about homework and all that.
Yeah.
You see, Sima, if you allow me, I can talk to her just to tell her my experience, but I will do it in Spanish. Can you allow me to do that?
Yeah.
All right. Alejandra, yo también tengo un niño que tiene es prácticamente completamente dependiente y la escuela es muy considerada en ese sentido porque yo hago prácticamente todo para él y ellos no me están obligando. Ellos me han dicho que es prácticamente mi decisión si lo continúo apoyándole con la escuela. Y yo he dicho que sí, que lo voy a ayudar porque él necesita un tipo de estructura, él necesita tener algo que hacer, cierta motivación, cierta ayuda. Si yo no lo ayudo con la escuela, él va a estar haciendo nada todo el día. Pero yo creo que tú tienes que hablar con la persona más adecuada en la escuela para decirle, esto es lo que puedo hacer y no puedo hacer más. Esta es mi situación y estas son mis circunstancias, ¿no? Para mí es muy difícil poder manejar todo lo de la escuela, además de las terapias. Entonces yo les he dicho, voy a ver cómo me va por ahora y si no puedo, voy a cancelar.
Thank you.
Okay.
So one parent saying that it's really the teachers hard because I guess the teachers show no understanding and expect us to do everything and on a schedule. It's impractical. And another parent is saying, well, parents have power and can complain to teachers and administration that it's too much right now. So from what I've seen from parents, that it is difficult, but I think, and then I know from some parents that I've talked to, or even just like friends of mine and family, that there are some school districts that are a little more forgiving and some unfortunately that are not, and some that have had to talk to the teachers in the school to get what they need, and I think there is this sort of adjustment period that's been happening, and I think, you know, teachers are struggling just as much to figure out how to make this work as the parents are trying to figure out how to make it work for their kids. So that's just from a little bit that I know, that I've seen and heard from family and friends who are going through this right now. It's been a huge adjustment for a lot of people, parents and kids and the teachers themselves in the schools. Aileen, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yep.
So I don't have any other comments or questions at this point.
Okay.
What I can do is share any resources that we have after the call that we put together. I can email it to everybody. And then we will be taking what we recorded today and putting it online in some way so that people who couldn't make it today and anybody else can access it. Or if there's anything you missed and want to hear again, you can. And we are going to be doing a similar type presentation with Deborah Markov-Cohen, who's the nutritionist on the team, on Thursday, May 7th. At least that's the date we have right now, same time, 4 o'clock. So that will be, but next week we will be doing a parent, so we are doing parent groups on a weekly basis as well on Thursdays. But that is our next guest speaker. So thank you so much, Aileen, for doing this.
Welcome. My pleasure. I hope everyone is well and safe and take good care of yourselves.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So much.
Oh, and I just want to add one thing. If anyone, so Dina, you're going to send some of the resources that I sent you, or some of them, I guess, to the families. Okay. So just let, you know, if you find that either, you know, Aileen or I can be of help or further support you guys or be an advocate, just reach out to us. I think you have our emails, but maybe Dina, in the next email, you can just add in my email address and Aileen's email address just in case. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to see everyone.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Dina.
Bye.
Nice to see you.